are you? Hello! Woo! Hello, Mrs. Doubtfire. Well, I didn't know who that was who I was streaming with today. Ooh, still need to watch that. That's definitely on the list, I think.
Right.
Welcome. It is Storytime Saturday. We are talking about the Scarlet Letter today, which was actually my turn to choose. And I chose this. So we're starting off real well with the whole glutton for punishment situation, which, since this is about the Puritans.
Yep.
Yeah. The last time I read this...
Not nearly as heart-wrenching as Of Mice and Men, though.
No. Just more like...
An action-fueled revenge story, a
Yes.
deep psychological thriller.
I was just going to say rage-inducing, but yeah, that too.
Well, you have to look at it. It's a story about a man taking revenge on his unfaithful wife and her lover from the point of view of the victims.
Yes. And just spending 7 years torturing these people until one of them literally drops dead from guilt. It's great. It's fantastic. Which actually,
Considering my current profession, what a hero.
Yes, absolutely. You gotta root for
Prime
this
grade.
guy.
That's the kind of stuff I strive for.
This is like Lorena Bobbitt just went for it. Chillingsworth played the long game.
This man had a plan, and he stuck to it.
He absolutely did. Which actually makes me wonder, how long did he... Do you think he knew from the beginning that Dimmesdale was indeed the father? He went to Mari and was like, let's get a DNA test. You're welcome for that.
Forsooth, Chillingsworth, you are not the father!
But seriously, what do you think?
I think he knew from the beginning. Not, immediately the beginning, but before the setting of the book. By the time when the child was born, and he comes back, and he goes, well, I'm a doctor, and that's my wife. I know her. I'm just going to poke around, ask some questions, and see who reacts.
Yeah.
Like ye old L.A. Noire.
Yeah. Pretty much. Well, he even,
he does that multiple times throughout the book, where he'll just say things to see what the reaction is, and then base it off that.
Yeah, and he's very often correct. I can't think of a time where his conclusions are incorrect.
No, I mean, that's just kind of his thing. He is an intelligent, well-educated, worldly man, because he is older.
Yes, yeah.
And he just has a particular set of skills.
And he will find you, and he will guilt you.
Psychologically torment you until you drop dead.
Yeah. And I think of towards the beginning of the book when we first see Chillingsworth and Hester interact, and he actually asks her yo, who's the daddy? And she refuses to tell him, and he has a very, one of those, I have a very particular set of skills speech where he's like, okay, I'm going to ask around town, I'm going to find out. Which from my perspective, may have been when he figured it out, because...
I kind of think he already knew, and he just wanted to see if she would be honest.
Yeah.
Of
that's a fair point.
You plead guilty, you get a lesser sentence.
Yeah. He does make that comment, too, about, if you just tell me, we can work this out. And he even acknowledges that their marriage wasn't the best. And he lays out his own, he's honest about his own role in maybe how their marriage deteriorated. But he then he asks for honesty, which I think any man would, whether or not your marriage isn't going well. When your wife shows up with another man's kid, you want honesty from her. So,
he just wants to know who he has to shoot.
Yeah, that's all.
Or
that's
broadsword,
all. Simple...
considering this is the early 17th century.
Yes, yeah. So, just a simple question, who do I need to kill? And obviously she's not going to tell him. Which is, it's interesting, Hester's persistence in not telling anybody. Literally no one, not even her own child, knows who the father is. Which
that's also because her own child has no concept of consequences, the world around her, or how to keep her mouth shut.
Yeah, that is a literal demon fairy child.
So that was just a smart move on her.
Yeah, she was like, if I tell you who your daddy is, everyone's gonna know.
Everyone
who your daddy
else,
is.
it was about she has power.
Mm-hmm.
That is a piece of power she has over everyone.
Yeah, and the only
because no woman in that town didn't know for certain it wasn't her husband.
Yes. Oh, I hadn't reached that thought yet. I had not thought about that. That is incredible. Because I was like sitting there thinking like there's so many ways that of all the other ways that she's holding power over this pastor. Bob!
Hey!
Yes! Demon child spawn. Yeah,
that is. We spoke your name and you appeared.
Yes, yeah. Kind of spicy but terrifying. I mean, that is Pearl in this book. So Pearl is the daughter of Hester Prynne, and she's the whole illegitimate child.
I wouldn't go with demon child spawn. She's just like a fae child.
Yeah,
she's very much like this sort of like English UK folklore fairy creature, sort of just like dancing to the beat of her own drum, doesn't really give a damn about human society or like your opinions of things.
Which was very
I made a flower hat.
Like, look at me, yay! And I think there's a few times where she's referred to as a sprite, which I just absolutely loved. Like, that's very,
She's referred to as a sprite, an elf, a fairy, any number of mythological creatures.
Yeah, like Nathaniel, like this is also like, how many mythological creatures Nathaniel Hawthorne knows. Like, how many can he list in a single book, a single 230-page book? Actually, it's not even 230 pages because this edition that I have has like 40 pages of just like intro of some scholar writing authoritative notes on the book, which I did not have time to read. So
I think I have the same version on my Kindle. I just elected not to read them.
Yeah,
because I went, skip! You're not the author. I don't care about your opinion.
That was also kind of the motivation. Yes, mythology exam, go. That was kind of Nathaniel, like, he was very clearly challenged by somebody to see how many fake creatures he could put into this book, because he put a lot in there. Or maybe he just likes his comparisons. So, I haven't read, actually, I don't believe I've read a lot of Nathaniel Hawthorne.
He mostly wrote short stories.
Yes, which I do remember. I was introduced to him through a short story. I'm just trying to remember which one. We had a pretty eclectic approach in my high school literature classes, and also there were things that I did not read that like I think most people would have read in high school, but like I've mentioned this before, any sort of book list that existed in our homeschool curriculum, my mom didn't even bother with it because I was already reading so much on my own that, like, I think she realized in some way, it must have been just a random short story that I'm not seeing listed here, and that I would not remember the title.
Or an anthology of short stories.
Something, yeah. Well, I have these, like, lit textbooks that we would have like little short stories from different famous authors like that I read for literature class in high school, so I think it was probably something from there, or even we may have even just read an excerpt from the Scarlet Letter. I love the reaction.
Something.
What?
I was gonna say, you mentioned that and my brain connected to, oh yeah, that's how I wound up reading The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. And I remembered liking it so much, and I just connected a whole string of ADHD.
Go.
Of like, oh man, a whole bunch of things just went into context right now.
But also, okay, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty is a book.
It's originally a short story.
I need to read this. So
it's like a 20-page short story.
Oh, okay, so that's like easy to find and read in like half an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, because fun fact about me that I don't think you actually know, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty is like one of my all-time favorite movies. Like, I love like a good action, high fantasy, like very like highbrow.
It does it all.
Kinds of movies.
It's just a dude who doesn't want to be there.
Yes,
imagining everything else.
Yes, and that's what
Which
I love about it.
I connected with very, very hard.
It's so incredible, and I always tear up at the end too, and it's so, there's this part where whatever the photographer's name is, shows him a picture of himself sitting in front of the Time building, like looking at the proofs of the like the pictures, just sitting outside. He's got his lunch. It's something he did every single day that was so ordinary. He was like looking at them like through the sun, and that was supposed to be the final cover. And he's had this proof in his wallet the whole time. And at first he gets really pissed about it, and then he like takes the time to reflect on all of the things that he has just done that he at one point only ever imagined doing. And it like just the way just it all falls together at the end of the movie just gives me all the feelings, and it's magnificent. There is something, that movie is so ordinary. It also had like Ben Stiller also as Walter Mitty is so fascinating to me because he's normally in comedy roles.
He's just one of those guys that actually has dramatic chops. He just gets pigeonholed into being a comedic actor. Yeah. Because he is so funny.
He is, yeah, he's hilarious. I love the movies I've seen him in.
He has a good physical comedy. Mm-hmm. Father was also Jerry Stiller, who's also a great actor in terms of comedy. So he got a good run up on that. Yeah. But yeah, he actually has some pretty good serious dramatic chops.
Mm-hmm. You gotta look at Ben Stiller's fantastic. He's an American actor.
Picture that like side by side with Zoolander.
Yes, that's the so here
You think I don't know what a googly is?
I actually don't think I've seen Zoolander.
My friends all died in a freak gasoline fight accident. Oh right.
So Bob, or anyone else, like anyone, but Bob specifically, so what you should do is you have to find we gotta find a good comedy for him. So I've seen him in Night at the Museum, which is super good.
Good comedy or stupid comedy? Because if it's stupid comedy, I'm just going to recommend Zoolander, if not Mystery Men.
Yeah. Okay, so you've seen Night at the Museum. Yes. Okay, perfect. So watch Night at the Museum, or like we should do Zoolander for a movie Monday night.
That would be great.
A Monday movie night. Once your schedule gets less what it is right now, we'll pick up Monday movie night.
So sometime in early 2025.
Yes. Yeah. So in 3 years we will do a Zoolander Monday movie night. Because I've never seen it, and then we'll do a Walter Mitty movie night the next week, just to like put them side by side. But you got to watch a Ben Stiller comedy movie, and then watch him in Secret Life of Walter Mitty, because completely. I totally forgot he was an Anchorman.
Yeah,
which I've only seen. Ones. Yeah, I've only seen the first. I've only seen the first part of Anchorman because a friend found out I hadn't seen it, and she's like, "Okay, we're having a movie night. We're gonna watch it." Except we hadn't seen each other like one-on-one in a while,
so you wound up just talking the entire time.
Yeah, we kept pausing the movie, and she was like, "Oh, I forgot to tell you this thing," or I'd be like, "Oh, wait, I need to tell you this," and it turned into And her daughter came home from youth group and was like, "What are you guys doing?" And the TV was off. It had just turned off at that point, all on its own. Like, we'd spent so long not watching. Like, we were watching a movie, and she goes, "The TV's not on." We were like, "Well, we were, but..." Ooh, okay, so he's written all these down. Yeah, Ben Stiller, yay.
Yeah.
So, also, Bob, I hope you are doing okay and that you are safe. I realize you are not in the direct area where things are going on, but I also know that people are coming your way. So I know he's still a whole country over, but refugees are coming his way, and which is like, I'm glad that Poland has opened their borders, but it is valid to ask if he's okay. So here, the empathy is all over here. I'm kidding. I know you're a very empathetic person.
I am.
I'm trying to make you seem nice.
I'm not a nice person.
Okay. This is like a good cop, bad cop situation right here. We could play that off very well. Except, I think if we were ever in a good cop, bad cop kind of skit or something, we would need to reverse roles. Because I think it would be funnier. Where
yes,
I'm like trying... Yeah, where I'm like trying to be super nice, and you're like... I'm trying to be super mean, and you're trying to be super nice. Yeah.
I'm like, look, you can let her be the bad cop.
I'm over here.
It's just big, like,
the cinnamon roll is like trying to be aggressive.
Look, you can let her be the bad cop, or we can walk out. I can grab a cup of coffee and come in, and I'll be the bad cop. Life's a series of choices, bud. Follow your heart.
Looks like a cinnamon roll is a cinnamon roll. Okay, I'm glad everything is okay where you are and that you are safe. I hope that continues to be the case because things are kind of scary. See? Asking is nice. That's what nice people do, Andrew. We're still training him.
Putin
Coffee
is never
does
going
sound
to
good,
get past the defensive line of the giant swinging balls on the Ukrainians, though.
Yes. Yeah, those guys, they are
13 of us
up.
sitting on an island here. There's a warship telling us to surrender.
No, fuck you. Like
should I tell him to go fuck himself?
Yeah.
Go fuck yourself.
Like, just incredible.
I know you're going to
stories.
shell me and kill me. You're going to kill me anyways. I'm going to tell you to go fuck yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
Just like...
It's so incredible.
How did the boat
stories
even
coming
bring them to the island?
Right? Right?
Like, how do you account for ballast with just...
with the steel on them? Yeah. Incredible. But yeah, coffee does sound good right now. We are drinking cider, which is also delicious. So I also want coffee. You know, Melly, I tried to get Reed to go to Dutch Bros for us this morning, and he would not. But to be fair, he was getting picked up at 7:15 this morning. But his plane was taken up at 6 o'clock, and I'm like, that is so much time to get ready. Like, what do you have? Yes, it is. It is. There is an alcohol content with this.
It's like apple cider mixed with chai tea.
Yeah. It is phenomenal. Like, it should not be this good. But I have a chai stand.
Yes.
I should take you... Have I ever taken you to that coffee stand with that I get the dirty chai from? It's like, it's kind of close to Costco. Okay, that's to keep us awake tomorrow when we also have to mainline, like, rush through Costco, and then, yeah, it's so good. It's Schilling's hard cider, which I doubt would be.
I don't think the distribution network goes.
No,
quite that
I don't
far.
think it goes. This is like Pacific
For this local
Northwest.
Little
no, but it
three-state.
just sharing it. Yeah, Pacific Northwest. Very specific, like.
I'll smuggle you some next time I'm in Eastern
There we go.
Europe.
Yeah, it's like they're located in Auburn, which is not far from us.
Yes.
So, but anyway.
About that Scarlet Letter, though.
You know, which actually, the actual Scarlet Letter itself, I love the way that, like, Hester Prynne just gives such a fuck you to Puritan society in general when she embroiders this Scarlet Letter. So, for anyone who's not familiar with the story, Hester Prynne gets caught in adultery because her husband is off somewhere, nobody knows where he is. He's presumed dead, but she's pregnant.
It's set in
the 1700s.
1600s.
My word. 17th
it's
century.
Set in the 1600s in the Boston area when America, the only European colonies in America, were mostly just the Puritans still coming out to England. A group of people so uptight the English kicked them out.
Yeah. Yeah, they fled because of religious persecution because they sucked.
Except they weren't even being persecuted. They just weren't being allowed to persecute other people.
Yeah, that's what they called religious persecution. So when
It's funny how that comes full circle.
You know? Well, what's really funny is that when I didn't even realize, I had no idea just how bad the Puritans were until for far longer than I should have, because the way I was taught about the Puritans was that they were righteous people who were fleeing religious persecution because they claimed that.
Because the kind of people you grew up around looked at them and went, hey, those guys are on to something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, although they definitely would have been offended by the Puritan provision for divorce, which is ironic, but... Anyway, but the whole Puritan, like, this takes place in a Puritan town, which of course those were kind of the thing. It was the thing back then.
All the rage.
Oh, I'm really...
Belt, shoe buckles on point.
Yes. It's already been a long day, but the happy slappy tired is better than the spaced out tired. But, like, the Puritans were very well known for their very drab, like, very boring dress. Like, grays, blacks...
Browns. That's about it.
Yeah. like, that's your color scheme. You get no variety whatsoever.
What kind of music do you guys play here? Oh, we got both kinds, country and western.
Like that, but clothing. 1, 2, 3, buckle my shoe. Oh, you recently that I really liked that rhyme as a kid because it fit so perfectly. Like everything rhymed, everything fit.
1, 2 tequila, 2 tequila, 3 tequila, 4, 5 tequila, 6 tequila, 7 tequila, floor.
Yeah, did not learn that one.
And we grew up in different parts of the country.
Yes, we did. I know. Black and brown sounds like a good color scheme. I know. I almost made a snarky comment about how I would dress-wise potentially fit in well with the Puritans because all I wear is black. But I think even this is a little too low cut for the Puritans. So,
but
and I'm also wearing
super
pants.
Desaturated, like minimally treated cloth.
Yeah.
Very, very sort of aesthetic.
Yeah.
Like you do not make fancy things for yourself. Like,
yeah. Like
yes,
very
my
low effort.
leather jacket is black, but it's like nice and shiny, and it's got a gray hood.
Yeah, and yes, like most of what I am wearing is also black, but I'm wearing leggings and like top and yeah.
They're like if an entire society was Sarah Plain and Tall.
Basically, yes.
Which is another really off-the-walls literary reference.
Yes. Yeah, that's a niche one.
Yes.
So, that's a good one, though. Also, my sweater is about witchcraft because Harry Potter, so they would also hate that. So we would color-wise fit in very well, but anything else would
The second I opened my mouth, I would immediately get burned.
They would also be embroidering an A on your sweater. Yeah, it is very comfy. This is like the rainy day outfit here, because it's very rainy today. So
because it's Seattle and winter.
Yes, Seattle in the winter. So, but I also have not been outside today.
Chocolate rain.
So embroidery. I mean. But this A that Hester Prynne embroiders on herself because she gets caught in adultery. Except, like, nobody knows who her baby daddy is. But,
usually the crime for that is death. Because they're going full biblical Bronze Age.
Yes. But instead, they imprison her for a while. I'm not entirely sure how long she was in jail.
I think it was mostly supposed to be just for length of the trial.
Okay. And then so she was imprisoned, brought out periodically to stand on a platform and just be publicly shamed. And then she also had to wear a red A on her sweater. Or on her clothing somewhere on her chest. And so, in the best fuck you that she could have done, Hester Prynne embroidered the most gorgeous red, gold outlined A for her.
She made it fancy and over the top and extra AF.
Yes.
Just as a sort of brilliant, like this badge of shame is like the nicest piece of clothing that anybody's wearing in town.
Yeah.
All these people can think to look at is like, oh yes, badge of shame, not like, wow, this is, some beautiful work and like lovely material and like real craftsmanship.
It's
because
just shame.
Much like most overzealous religious people, they can't see the forest for the trees.
Yes.
Because all they can focus on is the one little thing that they've been given to hold on to.
Yeah. And that's actually a big thing that comes up a lot in this book. Like, over and over and over again, you see the short-sightedness of these overly religious people. And the other thing I love about that embroidered A is that it becomes basically an advertisement. Well, yeah, so Bob, you're actually onto something. The badge of shame being a badge of fashion icon, because it becomes essentially an advertisement for her skills and subsequently for her business, where she embroiders like beautiful things for rich people.
Because everybody talks shit about her, and constantly looks down on like backhanded, remarks and front-handed remarks. But everybody hires her when they need something.
Yeah.
With the exception of wedding dresses.
Yes.
That's the one thing
Which is so funny.
The funny little line they call out, like, anything from, like, funeral, funerary
funeral
wear,
garments,
to rich people commissioning her for things. Everybody would go to her for everything, except for wedding dresses.
Yeah, like
that's just bad juju.
Which it's so funny how superstitious they were, with that. But the funny thing about like the way with their like religious like missing the forest for the trees kind of thing. I think when I was finishing this book up this morning, something that really came to mind as I was reading this is there's a portion of the story where she actually becomes known for a lot of her good deeds. Like, she cares about the poor, she's very giving, she's very generous, she no one can really, as the years go by, no one can really say anything bad about Hester. And really, when they talk about her, they can, it's yeah, she's the A lady,
they
but
have
also...
to find a reason to talk shit.
Yeah, because there's
they
so
can't
much
just,
good that
they
she
don't
does.
have fuel where she just goes you know what? I'm gonna bang all your husbands now.
Yeah, she's
she doesn't. She just becomes this sister of mercy, where she will sit with the dying and the sick, and she makes clothing, and even though she has very little in the way to eat, she always gives to the poor, and she's very generous if she comes across someone who needs help. Okay. So they just they're begrudgingly yeah, she's a good person. Yeah, that whore.
Yeah, they really...
Erin Brockovich.
Yes.
Prostitute with a heart of gold.
Yes, yeah. She is the icon girl boss, yes. And then they're over here, and they're but we are still the good ones because we're holy, and we haven't sinned like her, and we haven't done all of these things. But it brought to mind, a couple of things for me. So, for slight context before the things that came to mind, the first time I read this book was when I was... a teenager, sometime in my teens, sometime in high school. It all blurs together. I don't know the exact age, but I just remember feeling very frustrated by the way that these religious people were painted, because at that time I still didn't fully get, and Andrew's very amused by this because he knows where I'm going with this. I still didn't fully get the Puritans were awful human beings, and the kind of Christianity that I was raised in, the fundamentalism, is very close to it's modern Puritanism. And I remember being so frustrated and feeling this isn't real religion. Why is he representing religious people this way? And I was so fucking close because thinking about this.
Did you read The Lottery and take away that Giles Corey was just an insolent whippersnapper and he deserved the rocks?
I did not read The Lottery, but I probably would have.
So The Lottery is a short story, also set during the Salem witch trials, about an actual man, Giles Corey, who was put on trial. He was so indignified at this whole affair and thought everyone was so fucking stupid, he refused to enter a plea. So they took him outside, put him between two boards, and put rocks on him. And any time they asked for a plea from him, his only response was more weight. And this went on for 3 days until he finally died, with his last words being, more weight. Giles Corey was 87 years old.
Okay, so now I need to read that as well, but yes.
I'm sorry, The Crucible, not The Lottery.
I was going to say...
The Crucible,
yes.
Not The Lottery. The Lottery was another short story that was also... I
have not read The Crucible, but...
that's The Crucible, about Giles Corey. A man just who could not give a fuck. With 600 pounds of rocks sitting on him.
And when you're 86 years old at that point, you're like, okay, take me.
I've been alive for 86 years through the 16th and 17th century.
Nobody
wants to be here.
Such bullshit. Yeah. So, with that, so I remember, being a teenager and just being so frustrated by the whole book. Feeling everyone was so unfair to Hester, and, this is, a horrible representation of, true religion. I was so close.
Purity
I was
culture
so close.
is shit.
Yes, purity culture is absolute shit. And I
Be
like
gay, do crimes.
yes. But I was so fucking close because that's exactly Nathaniel Hawthorne's point. What the Puritans were doing was not true religion. And as I was reading this morning, like finishing up this morning, and reading the part where like Hester Prynne is like doing all of these wonderful things, like a verse came to mind from the Bible that says, "Pure religion is this: is caring for the orphans and widows in their need." And that's exactly what Hester Prynne was doing, and it brought to mind just the type of religion that like I was raised in. That like there were so many expectations, and I'm going to center it around myself because that's what this is true for pretty much anyone who was raised in the type of fundamentalism that I was raised in, and a lot of like the adjacent ones too, is there was this pressure, especially as an oldest daughter, to be a certain way, to be holy, and their idea of holiness was looking good and behaving and obeying and doing everything that you were told and being a good role model so that all of the other younger girls could look up to you as the older girl in the group, and so that you could seem good. And like a good little girl, being a good girl was something that I heard so much, and anytime that I pushed back, tried to push the envelope, tried to be different, I was kicking against the pricks for much longer than I knew that I was, because I kept getting shut down and told, you need to be a good example, you can't ask these questions, you cannot be this way, you have to look good. And rereading this, remembering how close I was as a teenager, and not even being allowed to ask these kinds of questions, not having the freedom to do that, which is why there's another line that I will talk about later that Andrew should know, which one I'm referring to. What Hester was doing was far more godly and righteous than what any of those townspeople thought they had, because true faith, true religion, actually following Jesus, is about caring for the people around you, sitting with the dying, caring for the widows, giving everything that you can to the poor and to the people in need, the people who have less than you. And it's, I was even thinking like, give to the poor.
Pharisees.
Yeah, give to the poor, but I am the poor. But also like there's always somebody else that has less than you do, and if you can turn and like reach out your hand to them, you are doing exactly what Jesus did to everyone around him when he was on earth. Like this was the whole, like everything that he did when he was like living on earth, when people knew who he was, when he was traveling around driving the Pharisees insane, he was healing the sick, helping the poor, and sitting with the destitute. And that's what Hester Prynne was doing. And to make that whole connection, and like I think even this is why for anyone who grew up in the type of religion that I grew up in, I think why so many of us have started crashing and burning, because the mask can only stay on for so long. The facade can only stay up for so long before it starts cracking and before you start cracking under the weight.
It's much easier to just do whatever the hell you want.
Just let it all burn to the ground.
And let it all burn.
Let it all burn.
Guess what? That leaves a lot more room to grow.
Yes.
The other thing, like I brought up, like the hardcore, like the like legal aspect of the religion of this, like these are the rules, you have to follow them. It's like how many times they try and get confession, especially mostly just in the early part of the book, but even to the point where it's like confession, and confession, yes, does have absolving qualities and a psychological release. Yeah. But confession only works that way if you have shame and believe what you did is wrong. Yeah. If you are going to confess something in that way, when you don't believe what you did was, wrong, or you feel like you were justified, that feels like something's being taken away from you, not releasing something that you were holding on to.
Yeah, exactly. And so, in that sense, Hester Prynne had nothing to confess because she didn't believe that what she had done was wrong.
Yeah.
Because...
Or that she felt it was the lesser of the evils of choices she had.
Yes. Yeah.
And you know what? At a certain point, when you get pushed far enough, the little wrongs, all of a sudden you just stop fucking caring.
Yeah. Yeah. And...
Which goes on later in the book, where it describes the change in her through the years of how, where she was this passionate, loving person and joyful person to be around. She just kind of became cold and withdrawn.
Yeah.
Very much a person in survival mode, and that just comes from being left out in the cold for too long, where all you're doing is fighting off the slings and arrows of just trying to stay alive.
Yeah, in the way that, she was so incredibly isolated by this community. She did so much for this community, and they still continued to look for ways to talk shit and to isolate her. Even in they could not say any, they had to search for things to her fault. They still isolated her. They still did not, bring her back into the fold and make her part of the community, which I think something that we've talked about a lot is how important it is to have community and how utterly isolating it is to feel like an outsider.
So that brings up a quote that I wanted to talk about, considering Pearl, her daughter, being raised in this environment by this woman who's just struggling and suffering, trying to be a good mom, and for the most part doing a pretty damn good job of it considering her situation. But she never created a friend, but always seemed to be sowing broadcasts with the dragon's teeth, where sprung a harvest of armed enemies against whom she rushed to battle. It was inexpressibly sad. Then what depth of sorrow to a mother who felt in her own heart the cause, to observe, in one so young, this constant recognition of an adverse world, and so fierce, a training of the energies that were to make her a good cause in the contest that must ensue. So Pearl never really had any connections in society, any of the positive connections in society. And without any of the positive connections in society, being a part of society is just being in a jungle full of invisible predators.
Yeah.
Because even being in a real jungle, you can most part tell where the big things that are going to eat you are going to be coming from.
Yes.
And you can hear them coming, and you can see them coming for the most part. But doing that in a society, you have all these abstract concepts. You have no idea if the next human face you see is going to smile and offer you their hand, or throw rocks at you and call you names.
Yeah. Which I think is even demonstrated in Pearl's hesitancy to interact with anyone that wasn't Hester.
Yes.
She
just could not give a fuck about other people, which is why she was this little feral child running around.
This little fairy lady, this little fairy baby. And even there's a scene where I think, is it Wilson? Reverend Wilson? Well, and I have another connotation with the name Wilson, which not another stream.
Mr. Wilson.
Not even there. But even Reverend Wilson, who he's such a grandfatherly person, and Nathaniel Hawthorne even takes the time to say he's a grandfather, and normally the kids love him. Pearl just
nope.
burns him, just leave me alone. Which is why it's so significant when Pearl makes the connection that Reverend Dinsdale is somebody important.
And she's all affectionate.
Yeah, she wants that connection with him, and she's so upset. And this is kind of bringing up where you mentioned that kid just runs her mouth. Where they are all in public together the day that Reverend Dinsdale dies. They're all in public, and Pearl says, "Oh, was that the man who was in the woods with us?" And she's like, "Yeah, but you gotta you can't
keep your mouth shut, kid.
Yeah, pretend we don't know him. He's gonna pretend he doesn't know us." And she's like, "But why? He kissed me on the forehead, and I want to see him." And of course they have to stay separate. But actually, something else that just came to mind is there is a scene where, like, right after Pearl, like, vehemently rejects Reverend Wilson, Reverend, like, Dimsdale is, like, kind of back, and he's hiding behind a curtain, like the coward that he is, and Pearl comes up to him and just slips her hand in his. Before even, like, she has no idea about the connection. We're years from him outwardly showing any affection to her. And it just, that little moment, just, I kind of had to sit back and just, like, I actually reread it a couple of times because I don't remember noticing it the first time I read it. But it's just interesting.
She just has this innate sort of instinct, the way a child does before they really know anything.
Mm-hmm. That, like, there's something important about him.
Yep.
And it's kind of like, obviously, like, I don't know if consciously she's like, that's my dad, but just
subconsciously.
Yeah, there's a connection there, which, I mean, biologically she has that connection.
Pheromones play a large part in that.
Yeah, and so
we tend to overwrite that with our, conscious mind when we get older, unless you kind of sort of train yourself to hone your instincts. Not that you can consciously do it, but you can start to listen to the other parts of your brain,
Deny that, like.
And just kind of pick up. It's like when you get a bad vibe about someone. It's usually for a reason. You usually should just, follow your instincts.
Yeah.
That sort of thing isn't. It's pretty innate in all animals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is, and I think that was really what was drawing her to him. That she subconsciously knew that she had some sort of connection to him, that he was important. Which then makes it, like, all the greater, like, somewhat humorous when they see each other in the woods and she officially meets him as her father. And I think it's a different time where she throws a briar at him, though.
No, that was the one where she was 3.
Is that okay? Yeah. So when she's 3, she throws the briar at him. But
because
when she's
they
7,
do the scene from both sides.
That's right.
Hester coming in with Pearl into the governor's house, and then was it Chillingsworth and Dimsdale are out in the backyard talking.
Oh yeah.
And she whips a briar at him, and he cowers like a absolute pussy.
Yeah, just like
this is a little sticker ball thrown by a 3-year-old.
Like
it's not Noah Syndergaard throwing a fastball at you.
Yeah. Like, it's not gonna do anything. Like, it barely touches him, and it's like that.
And he just goes,
yeah. Which, I mean, even then, even when she's 3 years old, he's already started to physically deteriorate because of his guilt. And that flinching when she throws the briar at him, it's kind of like, I kind of see it as, like, him feeling like that, like, the pricks are going at him because of what he did. Like, this child that you deny is yours is just making themselves known.
3 times.
Yeah. Which is interesting. The parallel.
I feel like that was just Nathaniel Hawthorne throwing that in for lulz.
Oh, absolutely. Well, there's another part too.
No actual significance.
No, he was just like, 3 times. Someone's gonna find a connection there. The other one that was really funny to me that I just, like, I snorted, which is what makes this is one thing, because I mentioned to you earlier today that, it's really, really fun and, like, fascinating to reread this knowing everything that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And, like, knowing who everyone is and everyone's connection to each other. And one of the things that I found very fascinating and just so fun was when that widow takes in Dimsdale and Chillingsworth, like, as boarders. She puts, because Dimsdale is, he's weak and everything, so she puts him in the front room that gets the most sun and gets the most air. And in that room is a tapestry of the story of David and Bathsheba and Nathan the prophet. And for anyone who is not familiar with this story, David was the king of Israel at one time, and
he had a secret chord.
He had a secret chord that he
played and pleased the Lord.
Yes. And
you don't really care for music, do you?
no. Goes like this. The fourth, the fifth. David, who was supposed to be at war, supposed to be fighting with his men, was chilling back at the palace. And he was not just the king, he was a peeping Tom. And he saw Bathsheba going through, who was married to his, like, the guy, one of his, like, captains, of his military. And she was going through, like, the ritual cleansing period, like, after her cycle, which was, like, really important in Jewish law at the time. And so she, like, this was, like, she was bathing, she was exactly where she should have been, doing exactly what she was supposed to do. And David was like, that's a nice fine lady there. Forget all my other wives. I want her. And he sent for her, took her, and raped her. And, of course, she got pregnant. And he sent word, as soon as he heard that Bathsheba was pregnant, he sent word for Bathsheba's husband to be sent to the front lines so that he would be killed. And later on...
You know, as one does.
Yes, you know, when you're the baby daddy, you make sure that the baby mommy's husband gets killed. So later, Nathan the prophet comes and he goes, "Hey David, I got a story for you. This rich guy stole a lamb from a poor guy, ate it, and now he won't pay the poor guy back." And David was like, "That's a terrible thing to do. He should be killed." And Nathan was like, "Great, right this way." That is highly, what's the word? It's simplified. But, and Nathan was like, "You're the guy. The lamb is Bathsheba, and you got her husband. Like, you stole her from her husband. Like, and he was punished for this."
It's fine. 1,000 years later, Michelangelo gave him a tiny prick in that giant statue.
Which honestly served him right. So,
Which, you don't realize, I don't know if you realize that. That statue of David is a colossus. It's 8 feet something inches tall.
I've never seen it in person, so I don't think I knew that.
It's in the Met in New York. It's...
Want to go to New York?
Been places, all right?
Yeah, I know you. That was not a mad at you. That was, I want to go to New York and go to the Met.
That statue is a colossus.
Yeah. So, proportionately.
But proportionally, he's just like, there ain't nothing much there.
Yeah.
Which was potentially artistic license of David, because it's David facing Goliath.
Yeah.
Of him just being scared out of his fucking mind.
Mm-hmm. And everything is just like shrinking.
Yeah, which is a physiological thing that happens.
Yeah, it's a response.
But also, it's kind of funny.
It is.
This fucking...
Well...
Like, if it were a proportional... If it were not a colossus, if it were a normal-sized one, yeah, that, like, okay.
Yeah.
That'd be fine.
But proportionately, it's like a micro...
Yeah.
That's extremely amusing.
Michelangelo also did not give a fuck in a lot of his artwork. When he painted the Sistine Chapel, there was a cardinal who did not like him. If you ever go to the Vatican, you can see this. In the Sistine Chapel, in the gigantic wall painting of the Ascension of Heaven, out in the corner, there was a cardinal who did not like him and constantly like tried to get him like fired, thrown off projects, everything. He painted him just this little corner in hell getting his dick bit by a snake.
So Michelangelo was like all about the dick jokes, basically.
Yes.
That's so like I see him just like going like
16th century Italian, or quite frankly, any century.
I was gonna
Italian.
say any Italian, but especially because David just like assaulted his way up and down like the Middle East, and so it's very gratifying to think of Michelangelo going, "I'm gonna carve David out of marble. I'm gonna give him a micro penis because that guy, that's what he deserves. Like, he's got micro penis energy. Like, that's just like."
And of course,
so
if it were a
fitting.
carving of Solomon instead, the penis would be 8 feet something inches long.
Like, Solomon has big dick energy. all the way. Like, yeah.
He wasn't raping nobody.
No, no.
Women were like, "I'll be one of your wives." Like, okay, you make it even 1,000.
Great, cool. I mean,
Take a number.
he had more than his.
Now serving 69.
Nice. He got more than his father and satisfied far more than, yeah, so 1,000 satisfied customers. Okay, I'm really done this time.
I'm not. I'm going to continue to make biblical dick jokes for the rest of the stream.
I mean, there is precedent for that.
Dick fish!
Yes. God made that fish.
Yeah, of course. His name is Ricardo.
Anyway.
But more on that on
The
Wednesday.
Scarlet, yes.
The Scarlet Dickfish.
Yes. I mean, it is red. Red belly comb jelly. Yes, but more on that on Wednesday. Going back to the Scarlet Letter, I don't even know how we got on this tangent about dicks.
Because I brought up Michelangelo's
we're
David.
Fucking children.
Because David
and
Bathsheba
Bathsheba story. Yes. And so it was so amusing. Like, the way, like, and that's what gives this book such, like, the reread value is incredible, because you get to go back and see all of the symbolism that he laid into this. And, like, in so many examples in English, like when you're taking an English class and your English teacher is like, look for the symbolism, and they're talking about blue curtains, like, no. But there are ways that writers will just put little, I like to call them Easter eggs, like little, because that's kind of
The
what they are.
The technical term is allegory.
But, you know,
One
Easter
of us paid
eggs.
attention in English class a lot more than the other.
And yet this one is an English teacher. It's fine.
It's fine. I read this book for the first time 10 hours ago.
I thought you read it, like...
I thought I did too. It turns out I didn't. Either that or I brain dumped the entire thing because it had been
That's
so long.
exciting. That's exciting. Well, I'm so glad that you experienced this because of me. But like all the little like pieces of symbolism in this story are just like, it's really, really cool to see, especially like going back and like knowing everything that happens, knowing who everyone is, and seeing it all, everything that's there, like that you missed
Also,
the first time because
totally
you don't know
called,
who's who.
Dimsdale being the father.
Yeah.
From the scene where she grabs his hand.
Oh yeah.
Like, first interaction between them, like, priest is the dad.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's, I mean, I think that's also, that's kind of his first, like, big hint that, like, he's something significant, because, like, this child is hostile to anybody who's not her mother, and then suddenly she goes up to this guy, whom she's never met, who's cowering behind the curtain, like, clearly doesn't want to be seen or noticed, and she goes up to him.
Yeah.
Like, that's a very good indicator. So, like, but also, like, yeah. What is...
That was my tablet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's very cool. There was... What's the other thing we were gonna... I feel like we were on another tangent about this, though. Yes, quotes. I am excited that this must have been your first time reading it, because that doesn't happen very often, where I find a classic piece of literature that you haven't read.
Yeah.
That I have read. That's the combination that is not as common.
Oh, I also enjoyed the part where they were talking about, like, they're going into a superstitious thing of, like, these people that signed the book from Black Man in the Forest and become demons and then go back and, make half-breed children that go out in the world. And then Luther, according to the scandal of his monkish enemies, was a brat of that hellish breed, according to...
Yeah, according to...
It's just like, dig.
Boop. Yeah, well, because Luther was such a blight on the Catholic Church.
Become ungovernable.
Yes. Yeah, he is just the poster child for that phrase, I feel. Because he did not give a
when
fuck.
I leave the Navy, I'm going to nail my 99
protests to NR's door.
Please do. I would love to hear about this because, like, Luther did not give a fuck, and he absolutely would have said that phrase word for word. Like, I do not give a fuck. He was the drinkiest, sweariest,
mostly correct.
Yes, religious, like, the things that he, like, brought, like, the challenges that he brought to the Catholic Church were just, well, and that's even, I think the thing that I really appreciate about Luther, that I felt like I really strived to do in my own deconstruction, like, even, like, leaving my own church, was he genuinely wanted to reform the Catholic Church. He was not, like, out here just trying to, like, peace out.
Fine, I'll start my own church.
Yeah.
With blackjack.
And hookers. Except...
No, that was L. Ron Hubbard.
Yes. I'm going to say, trade the blackjack for, like, 99 Theses and the hookers for nuns, and then you will have the beginning of Luther Church. So, but he genuinely was like, I want to make this better here because that will mean, like, all the Catholic peasants have a better life. And he really wanted to make everything better within the Catholic Church, and he genuinely believed that he could do that. And then the Catholic Church was like, no, fuck you. We like all stealing money from peasants. And he was like, okay, bye. I'll have to make my own church.
Also,
and then
being
he burned it onto the ground.
Corrupt and
yes.
politically involved, because the Papal States were a big thing up until the 1800s.
Yeah, the we like stealing from poor people is like a very heavy oversimplification of what was going on at the time. But
we still do it today.
True.
Okay.
What was going on?
So there's another fantastic conversation in chapter 10, aptly named "The Leech and His Patient." Yet some men bury their secrets thus, observed the calm physician, Chillingsworth.
Mm-hmm.
True, there are such men, answered Mr. Dimsdale, but not to suggest a more obvious reason. It may be that they are keeping silent by the very constitution of their nature, or, can we not suppose it, guilty as they may be, retaining nevertheless a zeal for God's glory and man's welfare. They shrink from displaying themselves black and filthy in the view of men, because thenceforth no good can be achieved by them, no evil of the past redeemed by better service. So, to their own unutterable torment, they go about their fellow creatures, looking pure as new-fallen snow, while their hearts are all speckled and spotted with the iniquity of what they cannot rid themselves. And it just kind of becomes this, like, nature of man conversation between a cynic and a man of faith of, two men who were cut by the same sword from different angles. Of one who just clung to his beliefs and said, well, no, I'm doing this for a good reason. The other one who said, fuck all of you. Like, everyone's terrible, everything's terrible. You're a coward if you don't fess up to what you did.
Yeah.
The other one's like, no, maybe he just doesn't want his reputation ruined because then he can't keep doing good things. Like, maybe he shouldn't have done bad things in the first place then.
Yes.
Go fuck yourself.
Yes. And I think that is Dimsdale's big motivation in not confessing, because he thinks, well, but because it's about his pride and his station.
Self-important bullshit that he always goes through.
Yeah. And it's a very, like, to put this in a modern perspective, it's very, like, touch not the Lord's anointed, like, no matter what they do, because they're doing some good, so we can't call them out for the evils that they do. And
God is not here today, priest. Yes, I am aware I just quoted a Nazi.
It's fine. It's not funny.
It's just such a fucking ice cold
so
moment
good.
in the movie.
Yeah.
Well,
which movie is that?
That was Schindler's List.
Ah, yeah, I haven't seen that either.
Was that Schindler's List? It was definitely set in a concentration camp.
Could be Schindler's List.
Let me double check.
Okay. While you're while you're looking for that, something that I don't think gets brought up maybe into consideration in the discussion of the Scarlet Letter. Granted, it's been this is like the first discussion I've had on it in a while. But we don't often think about, like, the power dynamic that was happening here with Reverend Dimsdale and Hester Prynne. Because he was her pastor. And that is a position of power. Anyone who pastors a church, leads any sort of religious organization.
More like position of power bottom.
Yes. How do you know he was bottom? Maybe he was a top.
Did you read the book?
Yes, I did. I'm being a brat. So he was in a position of power.
Bottom.
He was apparently a bottom. And Hester was a member of his congregation. And so, and she was in a vulnerable position. I mean, vulnerable position. She was in a foreign country, in a brand new town, without her husband, had no idea where he was, had not heard from him at all, presumably. Nobody, like, everyone in town kind of assumed he was dead. And so, for all intents and purposes, she's potentially a widow. She's all by herself. Like, at worst a widow, at best, she's been abandoned by her husband, who sent her to a foreign country.
It was The Exorcist. It was in the beginning, in the scene where he remembers being in the concentration camp when he was younger.
Oh, okay. Well, haven't seen that yet. So. Anyway, position, the power dynamics here. Like, she was in a vulnerable position. As it came out of my mouth. Go away. Go away.
The Among Us Day.
I was gonna turn you around, it's fine. Before I started talking again. She was vulnerable, and in a lot of ways he took advantage of that. Because we see, like, she was in love with him, and he used that. He used her love. And I don't think it's outright portrayed, but I think it's important to acknowledge that kind of, that power dynamic that's happening there.
One, I don't think anybody makes Hester Pym do anything that Hester Pym doesn't want to do.
Fair.
Two, I just want to use your love tonight. Yeah.
Still.
I don't want to lose your love tonight.
I mean, she was obviously very attractive. Like, that's like a whole thing in the story, is that she is young and attractive. So, you know.
Josie's on a vacation far away.
But I think
around and talk it over.
Even it's not like an overt thing in the story, and that's why, like, you know, we don't have to spend too much time on it. But like, that's like, and I could be reading like current events in Christendom backwards into this story. But, like, the idea, like, the thought of, like, a pastor sleeping with a member of his congregation and then not even owning up to the fact that that's his kid, like, that's a power thing.
That's not modern Christendom. That's
all of Christendom. But, like, I'm thinking actively
also,
of, like, specifics.
This would be a very different book if they were Catholic.
Yes. Yes, it would be. But they're Puritans. So
First off, Hester would be an 11-year-old boy.
Yes. Which it's very hard to get an 11-year-old boy pregnant.
Lord knows they keep trying.
Okay, that one's terrible. That's bad. This is a real issue.
They're there to spread the word of God all over little Timmy's back.
You're a horrible person.
I am. I told you.
I know you are.
I don't pretend to be anything I'm not.
You do not.
That's fine. Dark humor's like food. Not everybody gets it.
Yep. We're never gonna get back on track, are we?
No, we're not.
No. Anyway, pastor sleeping with his congregation member, whether or not she is manipulated, easily manipulated, still an issue.
She's not manipulating him.
That's a fair point. He is a weak ass bitch.
Weak ass bitch, and she's like, yeah, my husband's like 30 years older than me, and he's not that good looking, but he's a doctor. But he hasn't been here for like 2 years.
And I'm really
That guy's
like,
pretty cute and pretty popular. Fuck it. Let's go, Rickety Cricket. Yeah, she totally, 100% could have sweet deed him from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He's just this nice little priest boy, and she convinces him to do all of these fucking terrible things. And then, bam!
And he doesn't own up to any of it.
No.
No.
Because he freaks the hell out,
Yeah.
because he never would have done those things of his own accord. It's
No.
all entirely possible. The
Absolutely.
entire run-up to their affair is all pure speculation with
Absolutely.
absolutely no evidence one way or the other.
No, absolutely, I agree. I just bring up my perspective on it because, like, the pastor-congregate dynamic. Like, that's an ongoing thing in Christendom with pastors abusing their congregants that way. So I don't think that's necessarily this specific situation, but I do think it's a power dynamic to notice. So. But that's all I'll say on that because it's very clear he's a weak ass bitch. But and especially like in the way that this guilt that he has consumes him. And it's interesting because
It's not just his own guilt, though, because
True.
it gets ramped up to 11 by Chillingsworth, who just sits by his side, becomes his bro, because Dimsdale doesn't know Chillingsworth knows.
Yeah.
He doesn't even know who Chillingsworth is.
he hasn't.
Chillingsworth isn't even his real name.
Yeah.
He's the fucking Lizard King.
And I don't think there's a point where
Nobody knows
Dimsdale.
what his real name is, other than
Yeah.
Hester, and they never really bring it
And
up.
I don't
because
think it's
he
ever
just kinda
revealed.
shows up out of the blue.
And then she talks to him, and then he's like, "Also, I go by Chillingsworth now. Bye."
Also, never tell anyone we were married.
Yeah. Because you whore.
Yeah.
So, and it's
But, like, he cozies up to Dimsdale,
And
and
he
then
just
just
wears
plants a
at him.
seed, and then just keeps watering it to the point where he's just like, well, I'm a doctor, you're feeling pretty sick, let me take a look at you. Oh, there's nothing physically wrong with you, but you know, sometimes a sickness of the spirit can affect the body. Have you done anything that would taint your soul? Have you done anything that would make you feel guilty? The kinds of things that would gnaw at a man and make him rack his brain over it till the stress kills him? Alright, if you think of anything, let me know.
yeah, and then continues to just kind of chip away at him
Yeah.
over 7 years. And
Every day. Moves in with him.
yeah,
He goes
like-
this, like, weird combination between
Like,
law-abiding citizen and single white female. With a little bit of, I can think of the novel, Push by Sapphire. I can't think of the actual movie they made out of it.
I know what you're talking about.
Precious.
Precious, yep.
Yeah. With a little bit of Precious dabbed in there. For good measure. And just absolutely proceeds to ruin this man.
Just utterly destroy him. And then when he dies, like, rips open his shirt, and he has a matching A on his chest that's just been born into him. Just like,
So initially I thought, like, the whole, like, clutching at the heart thing was like,
he sees the A and he
no,
on her.
he branded himself with the A. I'm like, wait a minute, this guy's a bitch. He's not gonna do that. He doesn't have the fucking stones to
No.
shape out something in metal to make an A.
Yeah.
2, stick it in a fire until it gets red hot, and then 3, stick it into his own chest, branding himself.
Yeah.
Like, they kind of go into that in the conclusion a little bit of, like, what was actually there. And, like, anybody who actually didn't take their eyes off said, no, there was nothing there at all. Or if it was, like, this psychosomatic rash that, like, came out, which I could buy a psychosomatic rash. I'm not going to buy a You lose suspension of disbelief for me a little bit with the way you've set your story up if, like, the psychosomatic rash actually is the same shape of an A that was on her patch.
Yeah. Yeah. that's a little too far. Like, psychosomatic rash, absolutely.
I mean, he is shown to be an incredibly charismatic public speaker, to the point where he could very easily have put this idea in everyone's head that I have this A here. Look!
Yeah, look at what
and then drops dead, and it's a short enough time that everybody between looking away and like looking in, and the way memory works, especially in crowd events, everybody like, oh,
think
no,
they
there was
saw.
there was an A there.
Yeah.
It was burned into his chest,
But
as
then
if from
anyone
the
who-
inside out.
Yeah. And that's kind of the, like, that's what makes that ending so fuzzy, and what the fun of that ending, because for the like the crowd influence, the people who heard him say that, they're like, sure, of course, yes, absolutely an A, but the people who stared him down didn't see anything. But I like the fuzziness of that ending, where it's kind of like, was there something? Maybe not. If there was something, how did it get there? And I almost, there's this sick part of me that, like, wants to think that, like, the doctor did that somehow. Like, he
Administered an ointment.
did something, like, figured out an irritant, or maybe something he was allergic to, that just, like, over time he made it go darker and darker and darker and look worse and worse and worse. And then stress really does take a toll on your body. Like, it is it is insane how hard stress can be on a person. And for 7 years of that, and to see, like, this A getting darker and darker on his chest every day, like, becoming more and more prominent, like, that would just eat a person up. And so, like, there's, like,
No.
you definitely wouldn't. Your life is just, easy street. No, that's a lie that we can't even. No.
I can take enough leave to kill a small horse and be perfectly fine now.
So basically, you have the constitution of a medium horse.
Yes. Working my way up the large.
Yes. It is, though. There's, like, this part of me that thinks, like, it is a little surprising that it didn't kill him sooner.
So, the part that kind of lost the plot for me a little bit is when they have this escape lined up, right?
Yeah.
Why is he still dying guilt?
Yeah, because he confesses. And he's, like, ready to go.
1, he has an escape plan. 2,
Yeah.
he has love in his life. 3, he has a daughter now. Like, an actual
Who
relationship
wants
with
him?
his daughter.
Yeah, who wants a relationship with him. Like, at first she was hesitant, but then she was like, wait, that's my dad.
Has an escape plan, doesn't know that Chillingsworth is already lined up to be his roommate on the ship, too. Which was just a beautiful bit of devilry. Of, like, oh, yeah.
It's like, it reminds me of, Reed took me to see Death on the Nile a couple weeks ago, and they're, like, the whole story is, like, there's this couple that, like, he was engaged to this one girl for a little while, and then he meets this other girl, and, like, ditches the first girl for the second, and then they're on their, rich people honeymoon through Egypt, and this first girl keeps just showing up everywhere.
Second reference to single white female today.
It's great. And there's, like, a scene where, like, they're, like, totally over it. They're like, we have to get away from her. We have to go somewhere where she can't follow us. So they commission this boat to go down the Nile, and it's not gonna hit land or anything. Like, the only people that come on or off are the crew. And one morning she fucking shows up, and the husband's like, she had a ticket, I don't know, and it turns out that, like, she's the killer and he's the like, there's, like, it was a whole thing, but it
Way to spoil a 90-year-old Agatha Christie novel.
I know, how could I?
Guess we're not gonna do that one on the channel.
I mean,
I haven't. The Orient Express is better anyways.
Yes. Oh, so I've only seen those movies. I actually haven't read those books, so we should definitely.
Big Agatha Christie nerd.
That is the funny thing, is I said that to Reed after we saw that movie. I was like, I think at most I have read one Agatha Christie book in my life, which is surprising for me because, like, her whole thing is, like, my whole thing with, like, mystery novels. I love those kinds of mysteries, but I don't know how I never got to them, but I have a few of them, and I am going to read them. But yes, Murder on the Orient Express is very high on my list because the movie was phenomenal, and I want to read the book, so.
But like how? Like at what point would this massive shift in mindset not also start alleviating a lot of his pains and symptoms? Like why is he still dying? Other than the plot demands it.
Yeah, and that bothers me too. Like that, there's no like once there's kind of an uptick in like the choices that he's making and his mindset that like he's not getting better, which kind of leads me to think that he maybe there's a point of
was poisoning him.
Yeah.
Slowly over the course of years, in addition to poisoning his mind,
he was poisoning his body.
Poisoning his body.
And that's actually what I was thinking as well. And the reason why is that scene between Chillingsworth and Hester at the very beginning when he goes to see her in the prison. She is just like completely, like she's kind of lost it. She's really struggling, and to the point where it's affecting her baby. No! We will not give you the secret Krabby Patty secret formula.
Excellent Filthy Frank reference. I haven't seen somebody other than me make a Filthy Frank reference in years.
It's a SpongeBob reference.
Filthy Frank also did it.
Oh, okay.
It was a thing. Never mind.
I'm sorry.
This was the internet 10 years ago.
Okay.
Unless he was making the SpongeBob reference.
I'm pretty sure
it's
a SpongeBob reference.
I stand alone in my
love
of Filthy Frank.
A
time before the internet was monetized.
You can film me later. Yeah, SpongeBob.
Go to hell, Tom.
He doesn't mean that. He probably does mean that, but like, come back. Good, come back up. But the scene between
oh, this means I'm still a chick. Never mind. I'm like, it's like you're Santiago and I'm Rosa.
It
That's
totally
our
is.
exact disposition.
That seriously is. Oh, your baseball team is greater than Andrew. Do you see that? Are you gonna just let that stand?
Do you bark back at every chihuahua that barks at you from behind a fence?
No.
It's cute.
We really are Santiago and Rosa. You've got the leather jacket and everything. I've had. What was the name of the puppy?
I've had it for one day. If anything happened to him, I would kill everyone in this room and then myself.
Yes. But the scene between Chillingsworth and Hester towards the beginning, where she's back in the prison after her walk of shame, and she's in hysterics, and it's affecting the baby, and they're both kind of just like in a lot of turmoil, and they bring this doctor in, and he sits there, and it's kind of funny. He's very, very calm while like the baby is like losing her shit and Hester's losing her shit, and he gives something to the baby, and he has to like kind of convince Hester to let him give it to the baby, but she concedes a little more easily than when he says, okay, I also have something for you, like a medicine in this cup, and she hesitates because she knows this is her husband, and she knows he's a doctor, and she knows he is a very, very smart man, and he knows a lot of things about medicine, including things about poisons.
Foolish woman, responded the physician, half coldly, half soothingly. What should ail me to harm this misbegotten and miserable babe? The medicine is potent for good, and were it my child, yea, my own, as well as thine, I could do no better for it.
Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not gonna kill a baby, yo. And I'm not gonna kill you because you give this baby life. Like, this baby relies completely on you. But he makes it very clear that if he could, that if he wanted to, he could. And he absolutely could. Which does, I think, honestly, that he was potentially poisoning Dinsdale. And there are ways to do that kind of slow, like, he doesn't have to do it every day. He can do it every once in a while, like, and just let that take over him. And especially because he likes to press in on that, like, you sure there's nothing you're feeling guilty about? There's nothing weighing on your conscience?
Master of psychological warfare.
Yeah. And if he was poisoning him on top of that, yes,
Just
stress and guilt.
reinforce the psychosomatic response of your body's falling apart because of guilt.
Yeah.
You feel bad. Obviously, you feel bad because you're guilty about something because there's nothing physically wrong with you.
And now someone
Oh,
poisoning
look, you feel worse. Oh, it must really be getting to you, whatever it is. You must have done something real bad there, buddy.
And he's like, don't you know, I'm your friend, you can tell me anything. And he was never his friend, which is just
brilliant.
Oh,
Fantastic
so
villain.
So incredible.
And that one part where she goes to him on the beach and he realizes what a monstrosity he has become. And then he says, fuck it, I'm doubling down.
Yes. Yeah, which I think
like,
is another...
I have nothing else left. Fuck this.
Yeah. And
I am the demon now.
Yes.
I'm not possessed by the demon. I am the damn demon.
Yes. And the fact that he just, like, the fact that he's there specifically just to get back at his wife and her lover. He spent 7 years playing the long game here. Like,
and after he
commitment.
dies, he's just like, cool, there's nothing left for me on this earth, and then just shrivels up and dies within a year.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he, like, gives everything to Pearl.
Yes.
Which I think kind of, like...
Pearl was never the object of desire.
Yeah. That's actually what I was going to say, is, like, Pearl, out of everybody there, is the only, like, of the 4, the only one that is only a victim. She does not, I mean, obviously, wild fey child, but she was born into this, did not ask for any of it.
She's just collateral damage.
Yeah. And that's even, like...
Collateral damage.
Emotional damage. And that was actually something also that I picked up on this read of the Scarlet Letter, was the way, like, the dynamic between Hester and Pearl. Like, first, of course, Hester's the very obvious affection for her daughter, the way that she loves her, and really pours everything of herself into this girl, because, like, Pearl gets everything that she could ever need physically. I mean, which we've addressed already, she's missing that community, she's missing connection with children her age.
Base level on Maslow's hierarchy
Yeah.
is completely taken care of. Everything
Yes.
above that...
You know, well, and the town has a lot to do with that, too, because, like, when a bunch of 3-year-olds start bullying another 3-year-old, that's not the 3-year-olds, that's them repeating something their parents have said.
Yeah, it's the same concept as racism.
Yeah.
Hate is hereditary, not born.
Yeah, it's learned. And so, like, those connections, that lack of connection was not Pearl's fault. And really, I would argue, in a sense, not Hester's fault either. Like, really not Hester's fault at all. Because, like, no one's child should be isolated because somebody else thinks your parents' actions are wrong. Because you are not your parents' actions.
Well, there's that whole sins of the father concept.
Yeah.
To go back to biblical stuff.
Yeah. They're sour grapes, and the fathers eat sour grapes, and the children's teeth are set on edge. It unfortunately affects all of us. Whether or not it's fair, it does get passed down. And I would even argue that, okay, yeah, Hester cheated on her husband. But to punish someone for the rest of their life for that kind of mistake, especially after, like, from the rest of the town's perspective, her husband never shows up. Like, Hester is the only person that knows that Chillingsworth is her husband.
Mm-hmm.
He never comes back. He's, from as far as anyone else knows, he is dead and gone. Or he abandoned her.
He's at the bottom of the ocean somewhere, from all anyone knows.
Yeah. At best, he ditched her. At worst, he's at the bottom of the ocean. Or either, like, those are the options.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they still can't, they never let up on that. Like, there is one moment, which, like, kind of this is like a full circle thing with something I was saying earlier, when she finally gets Dinsdale to say, like, yes, this is my child, I will accept her as mine, and they start making their plans. She removes the Scarlet Letter from her garment, and she, like, throws it. And the line, which I said you would remember this maybe because I got, at Comic-Con, I got a painting of a page from the Scarlet Letter with this quote on it. And it says, "She never knew the weight till she felt the freedom." And looking at that scene and, like, seeing just, like, the lifting of the burden of the warfare that she was under, the pressure that she was under, that, like, her sins were seen and everyone condemned her as if they had never done anything wrong.
That's the way religious community goes.
Yeah. And that was, I joke about, like, when I was a teenager, there were so many times where I was so close to understanding that what I was being taught was nothing short and nothing more than legalism and not even true religion. And realizing that, like, I feel that in so many ways, because not because, like, I have been branded ever, or, well, I'll save that for another stream. But because I remember the pressure of being good and being perfect and looking a certain way and being a certain way. And when I finally let all of that go, and Andrew knows the moment that it happened, it was like freedom. And it felt like burning everything to the ground.
And that's why both of your in-laws hate me.
Yes. Which, in so many ways, as horrible as this sounds, kind of makes me love you more. So.
It's fine. If those are the kind of people that hate me, I'm living my life correctly.
Well, and it also...
Also, if you don't have enemies, are you really living for anything?
And it also, like, very heavily implies that you were just, like, over here, like, mwahaha, let me just, like, force Rose to be this thing that I want her to be.
I mean, I am the devil.
You, absolutely, but...
Detective!
But that's, like, not at all... First of all, if you tried, I would be like, fuck you. Second of all, not exactly how you operate in that specific way. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
No.
you are the master of manipulation.
Active manipulation is way too much work. It's far more fun to plant seeds in people's brains and just let those grow over time.
Yeah.
It's a much longer game, but with much sweeter fruit.
But also, like which I've said to you before, like, you just kind of let me, like, figure my shit out.
Yep.
So, like...
Turns out, if you try and make people do things, they actively resist you. If you give them an idea and then see what they do with it, very often they will come to the same conclusion that you did.
And I think I opened up a lot of those conversations with you myself. Like, I opened the can of worms. I had the can opener. So, and
I just sat there and I went,
you were like,
chew on this.
Here, have some more worms. Your can's looking empty. And so that, I think that's the, like, if we're talking about manipulation, like, that's not at all, like,
it was not manipulation. It was more just like, well, here's need something else to have.
Have a
you
little
need a
more.
counterpoint.
Yeah.
Here's the thought.
Yeah. Have a little more. Have a little more. And that's, like, I feel like that's how any of us form and, like, shape our beliefs, because we need, like, that. None of that happens in a vacuum.
Nothing ever happens in a vacuum. The world is interconnected in ways that we don't see.
Yeah, and we need other people when we're wrestling with these things, and I needed other people. So, and the people that I tried to wrestle with weren't interested. So, not to say that, like, it was like, well, no one else wants to talk to me. Hey, you!
That's usually how that goes.
That's kind of not how it, like, anyway. You were just there.
I sit off quietly in the corner, sipping my beer, making snarky comments. And if somebody comes up and wants to have a conversation, I have a conversation. I let the trouble come to me.
Yeah, because you are the trouble.
I am the trouble. I am the
Am
one.
I the drama? I don't think I'm the drama. Am I the villain? I don't think I'm the villain.
I am the one who knocks.
I do not remember where I was going with this. When she removes that
Yes.
that letter, I
and
very
even
much.
her own daughter doesn't know to recognize.
She doesn't recognize her without
Like,
the letter. And it's just it's actually really adorable.
Yes.
Um,
Just like toddler temper tantrum.
Like at 7 years old, like, Mom, no, that's you. No, you wear that, and because she's never known her mother without it. That's all she's ever known. But the thing that made me like, so I do really lean into the idea that maybe like that Chillingsworth was doing something to Dimmesdale, like in his sleep. I like poisoning him, and then like some sort of ointment that was making this A. But I do also think that even before, or even like along with that, another reason why Dimmesdale would clutch his chest is because he would look at that A, and he would know it was his too.
You should have one too.
Yeah. And so, in her tearing that off, she was giving way to freedom for both of them. And a freedom that he didn't deserve for her to let him have.
Mm-hmm.
Because he spent the 7 years of Pearl's life that he got to like see her exist, like denying that, like just actively denying that she was his, and actively denying any part of his role in her existence. And Hester had every right to just sling that guilt even harder on him. And in a way, I think that's what Chillingsworth was hoping for. But she didn't, because she loved him. And she tried to understand. And she was like, yeah, we'll run away. We'll be together. We'll be a family. And then I'll take away.
Drop dead out of guilt.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
the plot demanded it.
yes. Yeah. Well, because that's exactly where it was going. I think if anything else had happened, I know you mentioned that like this whole, that kind of end scene was partly where it lost the plot for you. It was like something with that. But I think if it had ended any other way, yeah, sorry.
Chillingsworth realized he was about to lose his revenge and makes a drastic move.
Yep. I mean, and like the actions of...
Not saying it has to turn into, swords and swashbuckling, but like, no you don't. Tussle pushes him off of...
Boat.
Not the boat,
but the platform.
platform.
Yeah.
Maybe not even intentionally.
Mm.
But there, it's complete. And
Yeah.
like, still same thing of like, there's nothing left for me here, shrivel.
Yeah, because that's all he was there for.
Trying to take a couple.
Yeah, but I think we're at a spot where we can take a break for a few minutes. We will be back in about... We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in about 5 or so minutes for more discussion. So, we'll be back. Welcome back. All right, we are back for a little bit more of the Scarlet Letter. Good break. Andrew may have died once or twice.
Only inside.
Only on the inside. Only dead on the inside. So we were talking kind of before we took a break about, you know, the kind of the moment where they felt free. Like Dimsdale had finally kind of had been open about the fact that Pearl was his daughter. I mean, it was in private to just Esther and Pearl, but, you know, it's a start. And then, you know, not long later, he dies from the guilt. Or also maybe being poisoned because he was guilty.
Or because the plot demanded it.
Because the plot demanded it. So, what do you think would have happened, though, if Dimsdale had lived? If he had made this confession, grabbed Esther and Pearl, and just, like, booked it out of town?
Chillingsworth would have followed them onto the boat. Conflict ensues. Hopefully Chillingsworth ends up in the drink. Or, alternatively, there's never a version of this where there's a happy ending. Dimsdale ends up in the drink.
That could be interesting. Well, and especially...
His revenge is complete, shrivels up and dies.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can have the same story beats.
With different, like...
Because it's not like he ran into 1,000 pages anyways. He definitely could have spared 20 more pages for,
absolutely.
A big epic they're trying to get away thing. Because they wound up going overseas anyways.
Yeah, like, and they just kind of, like, you know, right off into the sunset. Well, so to speak. It's not exactly a right off into the sunset moment, but they do disappear.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting to me, like, when Hester... At one point, Hester comes back, and nobody really knows where Pearl is.
She's just off being married to some rich dude in a foreign land.
Probably. Being the wild fae child that she is.
Yes.
And I kind of wish we could have seen Pearl as an adult, though. I mean, I think that's part of the, just, like, the story
That's
is not
a whole
about
separate
her.
book, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's not, the story is not about Pearl as an adult. It's about this
also,
one thing that...
she's almost more of a plot device than a person.
Yeah, the only really real character development we get from her is that she's a wild child who don't talk to nobody.
Yeah.
Except for her dad. She only loves her bed and her mama and maybe her dad. She's sorry. So, and, like, her as a plot device, though, she's a very good plot device. I think the way she interacts with the A on her mother's dress.
She even makes a little one for herself out of seaweed.
And she, like, because this A is what makes her mother stand out. Like, she sees all the other moms, all the other women in town, and none of them have an A. And so she, like, because she's
and it's pretty and colorful.
Exactly. It's bright and shiny. And it's amazing. And it shows her mother's handiwork and, like, the hard work that she does. But it also makes her mother different, and she notices that differentness. And so she wants to be like her mom, and we see that. Oh, and I think this was something that I was kind of, like, sliding into previously that we've been rabbit-trailed. Because, of course, is the dynamic between Hester and Pearl, in that, like, Hester gives Pearl everything that she can give her. But we also see the way, like, when it's just Hester and Pearl, the kind of the facade kind of goes away, because we see this version of Hester that is doing good in the town, taking care of the orphans and widows, being true and pure religion. But behind that facade, and, like, eventually this does, like, come to her more public face as well, because it just takes such a toll. But behind all of that, like, the public image that she has is this woman who is suffering. She is burdened. She is isolated. She's raising this little girl on her own. Has to see her daughter's father being put on this high and mighty post. Like, he is the holy
Literally
man
on
of
a
the town.
pedestal.
Yes, literally on a pedestal. Like, he is the holy man of the town. And one thinks that he is so holy and good and just. And look at this great person. And she knows exactly who he is.
Also, keeping Chillingsworth's secret, too.
Yes.
Of, like, this dude's my husband.
And he's the town doctor, and he's also very highly reverenced.
Revered.
Revered. There we go. I forgot.
And also keeping her mouth shut to Dimsdale. Of, like, yeah, your roommate is the...
It's my husband.
Yeah.
Technically my ex. She's carrying such a tangled web of secrets.
And it's her own... The guilt gets her in her own way.
Yeah. And it, like...
She has, more than the constitution of a wet paper bag, so she doesn't just die of it.
Yeah.
But
so, she's a little stronger than Dimsdale, but it's still a...
Dry paper bag, at least.
Yes. But it still takes a toll. Like, that
Yes.
is something, like... When you are bearing a burden like that all by yourself, like, even the strongest are going to crumble under that eventually. And the fact that she carries it so well for so long is remarkable to me.
Yes.
Like, that she walks through town, and, like, he does kind of this montage, like, after the trial ends and she gets out of jail and she's allowed to just go be on her own. You see kind of this montage of, like, Pearl growing up as Hester proudly marches through town, like, head up all the time, never looking down in shame, and just kind of sticking it to the man every time she goes into town. But behind the scenes, she has nobody, and she feels that. And it's so horrible, the treatment of her. And that at one time, I was like, is this, really, and it's realistic. The way that anyone who openly makes any random peasant that can openly make a mistake or just be not like everybody else, the belittling, the shame, the isolation, it's meant to break you. I think what they were expecting was for her to be a lot more humble.
In all her intercourse with society, however, there was nothing that made her feel as if she belonged to it.
Yeah. And she did so much for that community. She should have been one of the most interconnected people in that entire town.
Mm-hmm.
And she wasn't, for one thing. That happened years ago. The people in that town have done far worse than what she did.
Small backwater, crazy religious communities tend to operate that way.
Yeah.
And they suck.
Yeah. And it is...
Looking at you, middle America.
It is interesting if we're gonna draw that comparison to, like, current America, like, especially the current religious, like, landscape of the United States. I mean, this is our heritage. Like, obviously, the Scarlet Letter is
This is
fictional.
America.
This
They get you slipping up.
They're gonna put a red A on your chest. But this is our heritage. Like, obviously, the Scarlet Letter itself is a fictional story, but the
Historically adjacent.
Yeah, historically adjacent. The behavior of the Puritans is very historically accurate. And this was how America, like, how the colonization of like, the U.S. as we know it today began. With...
Take that, Vikings. Your stupid settlements 600 years before this.
How dare they? Well, as we know it, because, the Vikings came in and were, like, nice to the people that were there, and they made friends, and they were doing cool things, and then the Puritans showed up.
They were still Vikings,
Yes. But...
They started walking inland to find more lumber. And like all good Scandinavians, they started drinking while they were walking. Because they started drinking, they started drifting to the right. They went further and further north until they went, fuck, it's cold. we're home. And that's how
Yes.
Minnesota became a thing.
Yes. But my point being, I'm not forgetting the Vikings, I promise. I'm just pointing out the colonies, the English colonies, which are what formed the U.S.
Except Louisiana.
Except for Louisiana,
And
yes.
also
What began the formation
California,
of the
New
U.S.?
Mexico, Arizona,
What began the
Texas.
formation of the U.S.? Come on. Give me something here.
I'm never
Fine.
going to not be a
You-
Chach.
Fine, you finish the point. Do you know where I was going with this?
Puritans are dicks, and we're still stuck on their hang-ups 450 years later.
Yeah, pretty much. Good job.
Thank you.
But like, there's actually like this. I don't know if you have seen this happening, but this was something I was seeing in the religious communities that I have been in previously. Is that there's this sort of like fleeing and banding together that's happening in actually a very disturbing way, because they're saying, well, all these people aren't sharing our religion, so we're either going to run away from them and congregate together and make our own city that doesn't have blackjack or hookers, because that's sinning. Sorry.
This is why I like Vegas. We'll form our own city with blackjack and hookers.
And they did it.
And they did.
And then they did it. Or alternatively, which is also like
Atlantic
which is
City,
yes.
which also has blackjack and hookers, both of lower quality though.
Yes. So the lower quality alternative, because the first one is the higher quality one, because they all like all of the fundamentalists, like if they create their own little town with their own little bullshit, they can do their own little stupid things and leave the rest of us alone. However,
We have that already. It's called Iran.
ouch, man. You are not wrong.
You want a theocracy? There's already one. Go for it.
Yeah. And the other option, which is happening in a couple of places, I won't name specifics, but they are trying to basically create a theocracy where they are in that community. Like, basically...
That's called Kentucky.
Yes. And also is happening where they're, like, trying to basically take over towns with their own specific brand of Christianity.
That's called Footloose.
Yes. They're basically trying to create the town from Footloose, which I also have not seen, but I know the premise. And so they're basically trying to create the town from Footloose everywhere, except they pretend they're cool because they drink whiskey and smoke cigars. They're
I'm
not
in.
cool. No, you would hate it. I promise.
I'll drink all their whiskey and smoke all their cigars.
And then run away.
I mean, all their women will have to wear red A's afterwards.
Yes. But they're trying to like basically take over the already
I
established
too am
communities.
a pastor. I'm just a pastor of Bacchus.
I understood that reference.
Hooray! No spoilers for a 2,500-year-old religion.
But my point being, like, the Puritan heritage is continuing, and it was kind of interesting to see that parallel there, because the Puritans were like, fine, we'll make our own country with lots of religion and laws and things that we decide, and we're gonna put people in jail for adultery. And now they're kind of trying to do the same thing. Like, it's like still happening. Like, keep trying, and that like it's like stop trying to make fetch happen.
Yeah, but
It's
they
not
have this
going to
cute
happen.
misconception that they're the only ones with AR-15s.
Yeah, and they're not. They think they're all manly and shit. They're not. And like
Also- We have all the nerds.
yeah, they're highly underestimating all of the nerds.
I could build some stuff that is well out of range of anything in a 5.56. Even a 308.
Yeah.
Hell, even 338 Lapua.
Yeah.
Thinking back to college. But we're not going to talk about that
Nope.
because, yeah, no.
No. We won't. But it's the parallel, like the application of the Scarlet Letter like there's so many things that you can apply from this, but I think especially like avoiding, for those of us who do hold to a Christian faith, this book in many ways I feel serves in a sense as a warning of what, like, the kind of situation you can create when your religion becomes all about appearances.
If your God hates the same people that you do, you're not worshiping a God, you're worshiping a mirror.
Yeah. And our understanding of what a good religious person is in the general, like, mainstream evangelicism, and yes, I am talking to you, is far different than what true religion actually is, which is caring for those around you and loving those next to you, and reaching out a hand to the people in need. And the one person that spent her whole life in this town ostracized and isolated because of one very public mistake was the only one that truly cared for the people around her. Everyone else sat on a high horse with a stick up their butt, and it wasn't even for sex stuff. That one's free.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm. So, any final takeaways from the Scarlet Letter?
Yeah, don't miss the forest for the trees. Don't be a dick to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Your religion isn't that important. Your faith is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a good. Okay.
Also, if your child is a Feywild child, spare the rod and spoil the child.
I do not believe in corporal punishment. Anyway.
I believe in capital punishment for children.
You're just, like, here with all of the, like, shocker statements today. Anyway. Unfortunately for everybody watching, Andrew's face will not be appearing for, like, most of next week.
Yeah.
But that's because it's for a good reason.
It's because Putin's a dick.
Yes, yes, he is. So, looking ahead to next week, Monday I will actually be trying out Elden Ring, hopefully. If not, I'm going to just probably dick around on Animal Crossing. For anyone who missed it, I tried to play Elden Ring on stream a couple of days ago, and my graphics card couldn't hang. So I have a new computer coming tomorrow that, if I can get everything hooked up, ready to go, I'll be able to play some Elden Ring on Monday for the stream. Wednesday, we'll be writing Wednesday with Andrew. He will be back. And then Saturday is going to be my marathon day. So starting around 11:30 a.m. until I stop. I am going to be playing Breath of the Wild. I will be finding the last 5 shrines. So I am currently 6 shrines away from getting all the shrines. So sometime this week I'm going to get that shrine so that I will only have 5 shrines left. So I will be doing my final 5 shrines in Breath of the Wild, and then finally fighting Calamity Ganon. I started this game in, like, May or June of last year, and I have just been, like, playing the long game on this, like, total slow burn, which is fine by me. Like, this is exactly how I handle games for the first time, especially games as majestic as Breath of the Wild. Like, you just have to enjoy it. Also, I'm very busy, so yeah, that's the other reason. But I've put, like, probably almost 100 hours into this game at this point. So
Right.
it's about time that I fight Calamity Ganon, but I just want those last few shrines. So lots of gaming next week. We'll hopefully be back to regular scheduled programming the following week, but still streaming on the regular days. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us today. Any last words?